We're going to start with a chicken quesadilla. We put a tortilla, either white or wheat, on the grill. Add 4 ounces or 1 bag of cheddar cheese. Spread it around as evenly as we can, all the way out to the edges of the quesadilla. We're going to add 2 ounces of sauteed onions over half the quesadilla. Same thing, down the middle and then all the way out to the edges as evenly as we can. We have 2 choices on chicken. If you cook a chicken breast, a 6-ounce chicken breast fresh, then obviously all you need to do, it'll already be hot. You're going to dice it up into the size of about playing dice and put that on the chicken. Or you can use pre-cooked chicken that we've already cooked that is cold, in which case you're going to need to heat it up a little bit on the flat top as we're seeing here. You don't need to spend a lot of time. It's already cooked. All we're doing is warming it up before we put it onto the quesadilla. We're going to spread that over the onions, again, as evenly as we can, down the middle and all the way out to the edges. After you've moved the quesadilla to the cutting board, notice you got cooked a little bit, but not too burnt. You're going to cut it nice and evenly into 4 wedges. I'm not going to show it for the rest of the quesadillas, but it's important that when we cut these that they're cut in even triangles, just like a pizza, and that when they're slid onto the plate that they end up closely and neatly arranged, and that you end up with all the fillings evenly spread out all the way throughout the quesadilla for each, the same amount of ingredients for each triangle and all the way out to the edges. Now we're going to make a pork quesadilla. We're going to use the 4 ounces of cheddar cheese, 1 bag, exactly like we did with the other. Spread it out evenly all over the quesadilla. Of course, you can use white or wheat tortilla. No butter, dry. We're going to add 2 ounces of our cold onions. Again, they will heat up sufficiently as the cheese melts on the quesadilla. We're going to use 1 5-ounce bag of pork. This will be cold. Shredded pork that we cook ourselves. And you're going to add 2 ounces of barbecue sauce. Not absolutely necessary to measure it out as we show here, but it'll show you exactly how much 2 ounces looks like. We're going to add that on top of the cold pork. And then we are going to break apart that pork. We don't need to chop it up into super fine bits, but we want all of the barbecue to get throughout all of the pork. So if some of that pork is stuck together a little bit, you'll pull it apart. You're going to turn her over just to get the barbecue sauce all the way evenly through it. So notice that the mixture is not swimming in barbecue sauce, but it's not dry either. It doesn't take too long to warm that up, or doesn't really, or cooking it. The meat is obviously already cooked. All we're doing is warming it up. And then we're going to put that on the quesadilla over the onions. Again, halfway down through the quesadilla, all the way out to the edges, nice and even. Spread it out a little bit. And then as you notice that the cheese has gotten either completely melted or close to completely melted, it'll be time to flip over. So that cheese looks good. We split underneath half of it. Now we're going to make a steak and cheese quesadilla. This is 3 slices of provolone. Put 2 of them as you see. Maybe take the 3rd one, tear it apart in the middle. Try and make it as even as you can across half the quesadilla. 5-ounce portion of our sliced ribeye steak meat. It's going to cook on its side. 1 ounce of sauteed mushrooms, cold, onions, and 1 ounce of sauteed peppers. All three, onions, peppers, and mushrooms. Let that cook a little bit on one side. You may notice on the check, no MOP, that stands for mushrooms, onions, and peppers. Some people might order it with no vegetables at all, and that'll be the abbreviation for no MOP. Let that cook on one side for a bit. Flip the meat over. Separate it a little bit. Do not over chop it into ground beef. It's still supposed to be steak and cheese, so keep some nice shredded portions of steak without over chopping it. You don't need to play with this meat a lot. It just needs to cook very briefly on both sides. Get almost all the pink out of there. You don't even need to get all the pink out of there before you mix in the vegetables. And all we're going to try and do here is get the vegetables evenly mixed with the steak meat. Again, don't over chop it. By now the meat is fully cooked, and you can go ahead and put it on top of the cheese on the quesadilla. As with all our other quesadillas, all the way out to the edges, nice and evenly distributed over half the quesadilla. As best you can, try to get the vegetables evenly mixed. Flip over the quesadilla. And now a veggie quesadilla, dry quesadilla, 4 ounces of pepper jack cheese, not cheddar cheese. We're going to have 1 ounce each of onions, mushrooms, and peppers that we're going to put on the flat, and half an ounce of spinach, not sauteed. Half an ounce covers half the quesadilla pretty well and evenly, of course, all the way out to the edges, nice and evenly. 1 ounce each of mushrooms, peppers, onions that we're just going to heat on the grill very briefly. We don't have to cook them very long at all. We're just warming them up, and then we're going to mix them together. Put them on top of the spinach. Notice it really only takes a few seconds to heat up the vegetables. Spread that evenly on top of the spinach. Mix as evenly and spread out evenly as possible. Give the cheese a chance to get just about melted before you fold it over. And you probably want to flip it once, maybe twice, to get a decent brown on both sides. Now we're going to move on to a breakfast quesadilla. 4 ounces of cheddar cheese, of course, spread evenly all the way around. 2 ounces of diced bacon. If it's cold, it needs to be warmed up a little bit, but if it is room temperature or hot, then that is fine. 2 tablespoons of scallions, of course, over half the quesadilla, mixed evenly all the way out to the edges, trying not to spill too much on the flat top. And then you're going to add 2 scrambled eggs over from your sauteed station. Right out of the pan is fine. Spread that out evenly across half the quesadilla out to the edges. Wait a minute until that cheese gets a little bit almost completely melted before you flip it over. Get some nice brown on both sides, and that's a breakfast quesadilla. Clean off the edges a little bit. And now for a breakfast burrito. Same tortilla, no grease. What we have here is 3 ounces of home fries that are completely already done and ready to go. 4 ounce bag of cheddar cheese. Spread out evenly to the edges. 2 ounces of diced sausage, warmed up. It's already cooked. Doesn't need to be cooked, it just needs to be warmed up. 1 ounce each of sauteed onions and peppers. Also just need to warm it up real quick. We're not going to put these along half of the, like on the quesadillas. These are going to go right down the middle. Mixed as evenly as you can. Then add your home fries. Same thing, right down the middle. And then we're going to add 3 over medium eggs. These eggs are cooked so that the yolk will still run, so we're going to be careful not to break the yolks. What we also want to do is sort of cut out 1 egg so that when we lay these down on top of the home fries, you'll have 1 egg there and 2 eggs there, so you have a line of the eggs rather than just putting it in the middle. Then we're going to carefully lift that with spatulas onto a plate, and we're going to roll it, and we're going to roll it carefully so that the egg yolks do not break, and we don't have to crunch it. We're just basically folding it over, making it neat on the plates. That'll get sour cream and salsa and a knife, and it'll be ready to go.